The radio turned down by itself, and then that's when God spoke to me. Hi y'all, welcome back to God Nod. If you are new here, I make videos of God working in my life to show that the life with Christ is a joyful one, and to show that Christ is always wanting to work in our life. So, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe and hit the little bell button if you want notifications when I have new videos uploaded. Today, I have a guest on my channel. Her name is Michelle, and she's going to share with us her God Nod, where it was the first time she's ever heard God speak to her before. And if you pay attention, it's not like this huge, loud, booming voice, but it came to her in a whisper. And her God Nod is about how God provided a space for her to pray to Him without any distractions. So I hope her God Nod inspires you to continue to open your heart to hear the Lord's voice.
Good morning. My name is Michelle, and Casey has asked me to film my God Nods. I've had 2 in the past few months, and it has taken me this long to even get the confidence or be bold enough to try and record a video. So I'll tell you my first one in this video. My first God Nod happened a few months ago as I was driving to work. I'm a teacher, and I have about a 30-minute commute. So every morning I do my morning prayers on my way to work. Sometimes I turn down the radio and sometimes I don't. But on this particular morning, I had the radio on and I was doing my prayer and my mind was just wandering. I think due to attention deficit, my mind wanders often and I have to come back to the prayer that I'm praying. However, on this day, God had a different plan. I was on my way to work and attempting my prayer through all of the distractions with the radio on, and suddenly my radio volume went all the way down to 0. And I thought it was really weird, but just a fluke. So I turned my radio back up and continued my prayers. And again, another time, my radio went all the way down to 0. And I heard this voice in my head say, "It's prayer time." And so I just kind of chuckled and said, "Okay, God, I've got you." I left my radio off, finished my prayers, continued on my journey to work. And when I finished my prayers, I thanked Him for my day and for getting me up, and asked Him to receive my prayers and continue on my journey for the day. After my prayers were finished, I turned my radio up and continued my journey to work, only to find that my radio never went back down. It stayed the same, and my prayers were finished. So again, I kind of chuckled to myself and said, "I got it, God. I can do this. I can face my day. You and I have had our conversation, and I can move on." So that was my first God Nod, and I think the first time that God really ever spoke to me directly, or that I heard His voice. It was eye-opening. It was an awakening that spending time in prayer with Him every day is beneficial and good for me, and good for my mood and how I see the world and how I face others. And so now I am more cognizant of the voices that I hear and the signs that I see daily in my life. And I continue to look for the ways that I hear God speak to me. Casey shares so many God Nods with us, and it's just amazing to see how God works in her life and how He moves within her, through her, and allows her to share her life with us. And I hope that through my God Nods, you will realize that God is speaking to you, and if we listen, we can hear Him and share with the world how He works in each of our lives. God bless.
Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your God nod with us. There's a couple things that I want to point out from your God nod that I think is super cool. First off, I think it shows that God wants intimate time with us. Like, he wants sacred space with just you and him. He doesn't just want our leftovers of the day or what else we have to give to him, but he wants intentional time with his beloved children. Another thing I want to point out is how God uses the natural world he created to reach out to us. So like when the radio dial like turned down by itself, like maybe God sent an angel to turn the volume down. Or maybe there was a fluke in the car radio and it just started going down naturally. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter because God used it to reach Michelle. And that's, I think, what we forget is God created this natural world and he uses it to reach us. And so I think that's just super cool that it's when God had the radio dial turned down, that's when Michelle heard his voice. The last thing I want to point out is how when weird things happen like this, we need to turn it to the Lord. For example, Michelle, whenever she was in the car and she noticed that like the radio was doing something weird, she turned it to the Lord, and then that's when the Lord responded. And so it makes me wonder how much we're missing out on hearing the Lord speak to us by not going to the Lord when these little things happen. And so with every little circumstance in our life, let's turn it to the Lord, and then maybe we will have open hearts to hear him speak to us in these moments too. And it doesn't have to be anything big. Just when something happens like that, just say, God, is that you? You know? And maybe you'll get a response, maybe you won't. But what's important, I think, is that we give it to the Lord. From this God nod, I want to challenge you that the next time you're in your car, maybe it's today, don't turn on the radio. Just sit there in silence with the Lord and see how long you can go. Maybe however to your next destination, however long your trip may be, whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes. Don't turn on your radio and just sit in silence with the Lord and just have a little heart-to-heart with him. So that's my challenge from this God nod today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps like get the video spreading around YouTube. Also, I want to know from you guys how you pray. Like, do you find it helpful to have Christian music in the background when you pray, or do you like it completely silent? I like it both, but I want to know how you guys pray. Do you guys have music on? Do you have it off? How do you pray? And remember to let your love for one another be intense and to be a witness of God's love and joy today. Thanks, guys. I can kind of imagine like an angel coming down and just like turning the dial in her car. Like, isn't that so cool to think about?